بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد ومن وراء. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. SubhanAllah, this is the first time I've taught this in English, so be patient with me as well. Certainly a daunting task. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq. ويسر لنا هذا الأمر يا رب. Let's talk about some of the definitions of logic according to various scholars. I really just want to focus on one, to be honest with you, but you can look at these others yourself. But there's one that in particular I want to focus on, because these are different even forms of definitions that we'll get into in the future. Some of them are considered had, some of them are considered rasam. These are logical terminologies related to how we do research, how we write, how we read, how we interpret. So just remember had and rasam. Okay, rasam, R-A-S-M. So one definition says آلات قانونية تعصم مراعاتها الذهن عن الخطأ. This first definition right here, a law-like instrument, آلة, a tool which comes with a set of rules that when observed protect the mind from error. And here you can see with some notes for you, the definition describes logic as an instrument or a tool because it mediates between the rational faculty and acquired knowledge. It's a tool to help you. Don't like the word instrument, although it works. It is law-like because it is its principles apply universally to all particulars. It's a lot to say, but basically it comes with a set of rules and principles that help you think about specific contexts. Imam Taftazani, rahimahullah, he says the science of rules that aid in knowing the methods of moving from what is known to what is unknown and their conditions such that errors do not occur in thinking. You can distinguish between jahl and ilm. John Stuart Mill, the science that searches for evidence that leads to unknown affirmations. And here we see the definitions that I want us to pay attention to. Dr. Abu Ala al-Afifi says the science that corrects sound and faulty thinking. علم الذي يصحح الفكرة وفساده. The science that corrects sound and faulty thinking. يصحح, like sahih hadith, so it makes sahih your thoughts and protects you from faulty thinking. And establishes القوانين التي تعصم الذهن من الوقوع في الخطأ في الأحكام. And it is a science that establishes, that's why rules that protect the mind from falling into erroneous conclusions. Judgment is okay, but I also want you to think about when you see this word ahkam and hukm in the context of the Islamic rational sciences as conclusions whose outcome is going to be a certain judgment. And Dr. Awad Allah Hijazi, he has a great definition. He says, Mantiq is a theoretical science. El-Nagari means the mind is working. يبحث في صورة الفكر بقصد الاهتداء إلى القوانين العامة التي تتوثق العقول السليمة على صحتها. He says something nice. He says logic is a theoretical science that investigates the form of thought with the aim of being guided to general laws that sound minds agree upon as correct. It means here al-arifun wal-awliya. But here he says something nice. وَكَذَلِكَ فَنٌّ وَصَنَاعَةٌ, that it is like an art or craft, which seasoned, trained minds can utilize like a sword. I'm adding that, like a sword part, in which these laws are applied. And this definition, I think, is very simple and gets to the point. Dr. Abdul Hadi Al-Fadil, he says, هو دراسة قواعد التفكير الصحيح. جيد. It's not mani', but it's a good definition. It's the study of the rules of correct thinking. Let's talk about some of the common elements in all of those definitions. So it's not too much for everyone, but focus on this one here. Abdul Hadi Al Fadil's definition. خلاص. Make it easy for yourself. Don't make it hard. As is noted in the text, despite differences in wording, these definitions share some common elements. What are they? Number one, logic is considered one of the rational sciences. علم النظري, what we say, العلوم العقلية, rational sciences. It is a science that investigates the general rules for correct thinking. Not only investigates them, but provides you something here that needs to be added. It provides you with the principles and rules that help you investigate correct thinking, as well as analyze faulty thinking. It distinguishes between correct and incorrect, and it adds it right there, correct and incorrect thinking. The definition earlier that we mentioned of, Dr. Iwadullah Hijazi, logic as both a science and an art. An important distinction emerges in these definitions. Logic is both a theoretical science, ilmun nadariyun, and a practical. Sana'a is like a, sort of like a craft. And fun and art, this dual nature means that logic not only establishes theoretical principles, but also provides practical methods for applying these principles in reasoning and analysis. So these diverse definitions reflect the evolution of logical thinking in the Islamic tradition. So I did this sort of on purpose, and I added even, Mills in there, I believe, to give you sort of like how it evolved over time. I'm not a fan of Mills. I just put it there to sort of help appreciate how over time these things contribute to one another. And then finally at the end, you see sort of contemporary scholars here at the end is what we want to focus on, because that's where we are today. So these diverse definitions reflect the evolution of logical thinking in the Islamic tradition and its adaptation from Greek sources to serve the needs of Islamic theology, law, and philosophy. It's very important. You're going to find mantiq specifically in the subject of kalam, subject of Islamic law, and of course in falsafa and philosophy, but as well as language. Al-Ajurumi is written, al-kalam huwa al-naftu al-murakkab al-mufidu bil-wadi. So very mantiqi sort of approach. Aqasamuhu thalatha. Right? So you're not going to escape it in some of those classical texts. What unites them is the fundamental concern with establishing reliable methods for arriving at truth and avoiding error. What is the subject matter of logic according to the Arabic text that, when all brought together, that we teach at Swiss and sort of presented to our students? The subject matter centers on human thought and the mental laws that govern thinking. But we would also add the Sharia laws that govern those mental laws within the Islamic context, okay? The Sharia supersedes all of this. There's a number of definitions, but I want you to focus on this one right here, where it says another definition. موضوعه المعلوم التصوري التصديقي. You want to remember these two words. Tasawwur is conceptualization. Tasdiq is to affirm something. And I heard from my teacher, within the word tasdiq also we understand takdeeb. And tasdiq is to affirm, from sidq, truth. Takdeeb from kadhib, to deny. So I conceptualize something, and then that process of conceptualizing and then either affirming it as being truthful or denying it as being truthful, that is everything we're going to find in mantiq. So it's like it rests on التصور التصديق من حيث أنه, from the perspective of how it leads to a conceptual goal. مطلوب تصوري. And that conceptual goal is called a definition, mu'arrif, or an affirmative goal, in which it is called hujjah. We'll talk about these terms later on. So it's an argument. Here, hujjah doesn't mean proof. Hujjah means an argument. Don't worry about that now. It's a lot for you to handle, a lot for you to take on. But what I want you to take from what we just said is mantiq sits on two things, tasawwur and tasdiq. And tasawwur, by the way, has to come first. I have to think about something before I can affirm or deny it, as al-Akhtari said, bitaba. And naturally, that's going to happen. So here we see there are two central components to this whole thing. and that the subject matter of logic centers on how we form concepts and make judgments as best we can about reality, because only Allah knows 100% reality. It examines both the mental processes involved in thinking and the forms these processes take. So, abstraction, taking a form. From these perspectives, please remember this: we can identify two central components of logical, Islamic logical inquiry. Number one, conceptual knowledge. Ma'lum tasawwari. This relates to how we form concepts or definitions of things. Musawwir is the one who made idols. Surah now is a picture because they capture the form of something. But here, this is an abstract concept related to theoretically imagining what something is. How do you shape it in your mind? There you go. How do you picture it in your mind? It's called tasawwur, conceptualization. This logical tool for this definition, right, is al-mu'arrif. What helps you do that are definitions or the explanatory statement of somebody. What's called al-qawl al-sharih. Don't worry about this now. It's going to come later, which helps move from known concepts to unknown ones. What I want you to take from this first point, remember this, please. Tasawwur. Tasawwur is the first step. Tasawwur is how you imagine or picture or mold a concept in your mind. And what in this science helps you do that are two things: definitions and explanatory statements. We're going to talk about what those are later on. I don't need you to worry about that now. I just want you to remember these three things. Tasawwur is going to sit on definitions and explanatory statements. Khalas. What are definitions called? Al-Mu'arrif, Had or Rasam. But just worry about Mu'arrif now. What is the explanatory statement called? Al-Qawlu al-Sharih. Just remember that. Don't. Sometimes when you teach these subjects, you got to really wall yourself in and think about being strictly in this dojo. Oh, but I can conceptualize stuff by going to the park. I conceptualize stuff by driving my car. We're not talking about that now. It ain't about you. It ain't about me. It's about the science. It's about how this science says we learn about things. So we're in that dojo. We're stuck in here. If I don't like it, I don't have to stay. So al-ma'luma tasawwuri, conceptual knowledge, rests on what? Definitions and explanatory statements. If I'm you and I'm taking notes, I'm writing that down. First, tasawwur, mu'arrif, qawl al-sharih. That helps us move from known concepts to unknown ones. As Taftazani mentioned his definition. For example, defining humans as rational animals. Al-hayawan natiq. Natiq doesn't mean the ability to speak. It means aqil. But aqil, rationally, helps us conceptualize what a human is by relating it to known concepts. Human beings are animals, but they're rational. That definition helps you. فهناك جنس وخاصة. Talk about that later on. Number two, affirmative knowledge. Al-ma'lum at-tasdiqi. Need to remember this. So the first is conceptual knowledge. The second component of logic, Islamic logic, is affirmative knowledge. So now you're in the guts of Islamic logic. What are its two main organs? Conceptual knowledge. What leads to conceptual knowledge? Definitions or explanatory statements. The second organ now we're at is affirmative, because that definition and that explanatory statement is going to cause me to affirm or deny what's being talked about. Are human beings hayawan natiq? Yes or no? You affirmed it. But if I said al-hayawan ta'ir, an animal that flies, you're not going to affirm that. So that definition, that approach that I've employed, is allowing you to affirm or reject. Khalas? So affirmative knowledge, this relates to judgments and propositions and analogies that can be true or false. The logical tools for these arguments, al-hujjah, the arguments, like syllogisms, qiyas, induction, istidlal, and analogical reasoning, which help us move from judgments to unknown ones. We'll talk about what keeps saying unknown ones. We'll talk about that. For example, the statement, Muhammad, talking about a person named Muhammad, is intelligent, affirms a property, intelligence of a subject, Muhammad. Let's say that the person, Muhammad, is intelligent, so you affirm it. Oh yeah, I know him. He's very intelligent. I read his work, or I engage in conversations with him. What are the functions of logic? Before we get into that, I want to review this one more time. The two central components of Islamic logic: conceptual knowledge, affirmative knowledge. Conceptual knowledge is the outcome of definitions and explanatory statements. We're going to go through all of this in the future. Don't worry. Affirmative knowledge, bi'idhnillah. Affirmative knowledge is al-ma'lum al-tasdiqi, right? And it's going to be based on what? Arguments, hujjah, syllogisms, induction, and analogical reasoning, and other things that we'll get into, especially when we go through the sulam. Is the third section of the sulam deals with this in great detail. What are the functions of logic? Number one, defining things. As you can tell, turuq, ta'rif al-ashya. How do we define things? The logic teaches us how to create precise definitions. This is very important when we're writing fatwa. When I was in Dara Ifta and other places, how you write, you're supposed to be trained how you write. So just imagine that again, the sloppiness online, people just talking without having any training, never been in a dojo. So it teaches us how to create precise definitions that capture the essence of things as best we can. Also teaches us methods of argument, turuq al-istidlal, because we're going to have to talk and debate and discuss. As we said in our first lesson, logic provides tools for constructing valid arguments to establish the truth or falsity of propositions. Additionally, logic investigates scientific research methods. Manahij al-bahth al-ilmi. So we have a class till now in the Azhar, Adab al-bahth wal-manadara, the etiquettes of research and debate, providing guidelines for systematic inquiry that avoids errors as best as possible, and sterility in research. Here's a good quote of Dr. Abdul Hadi. Logic teaches us how to define things in a way that clarifies their reality. The goal of the definition is to try to come as close as we can to reality. And it teaches us how to or truth. And it teaches us how to infer the validity or invalidity of an idea. It also teaches us how to conduct research in an organized manner that avoids errors and sterility. Here, you can think about something, man. Look how amazing our scholars were. And how many of us have been tricked into thinking that somehow Islamic scholarship and the history of Islamic academics is chaotic and, ununiformed. Look at this, man. This stuff is amazing. SubhanAllah. May Allah have mercy on the ulama. Next time, inshallah, we'll talk about some of the benefits and applications of logical thinking. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakum Allah khairan wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.